On Radio 97, our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay. With us every Thursday, she brings all of her legal expertise by providing some general advice on the lowest hot topics. She has experience that spans more than 25 years in areas of property and commercial law. She also prepares the wills as part of estate planning and litigation too. She's with us once again for this Thursday morning. Hi, Despina.
Hi, Wayne. Hi, Brooke.
Good morning, Despina. Good morning, Wayno. Alrighty, so this first topic is a great one. I don't even think we've ever really covered this topic at all, but it's come up in conversation because everyone is looking for their dream home. At some point, you might do this and you have a bunch of checklists, things to go through to make sure it all runs nice and smooth. But there's one thing, Despina, that you've picked up on that people tend to forget about, and it is so important because it can bite you in the end. So what is this one thing that we need to be aware of before we buy our home?
Yes, so we want to talk about this, and it's actually an issue that's been raised by quite a few clients of mine recently, and it sort of brought it home more to us than ever before. And I don't know why that is, but it's always been an issue, but I suppose maybe no one's ever had these problems before. So we want to talk about this, and this is why I really love the show, because we talk about a lot of things, as you know. We talk about all sorts of things from high court cases to these real practical issues that affect the everyday Australian. And this is what this is about today. And in Queensland, and this is what we're talking about particularly, but I suppose in any state this could apply really. But I know in Queensland it's buyer beware. So within the context of buyer beware of anything and everything, what buyers don't typically check, which has recently become a problem for some of our clients, are electrical items, right? Yes. So when you go and inspect a house or a unit and you go, oh, this looks nice, and you make an offer and you want to buy it and you make it through the agent, that's all well and good. But very rarely do buyers go through and check things like the cooktop, the stove, does it work? If a microwave is included in the sale, does the microwave work? Other things like dishwasher, does the dishwasher work? Do the fans work? If there's a pool, does the pool pump actually work? Or maybe it's broken. If there's pool cleaning equipment, right, does it actually work? You know, the creepy crawly that goes through the pool, is it on when you inspect the property initially, or is it tucked away somewhere? If there are aircon units, so whether it's a split system or it's ducted, turn on that air conditioning unit while you're there, make sure that it works, plus the remote controls, and remote controls for garages on that point. So do they work? Light fittings, turn on all the switches, turn them off. Hot water, gas. I mean, there's a multitude of things, right? So a lot of people don't check that they're working. And then what they discover, and this is the issue that we've had recently, is people settle on their purchase, right? And then after settlement, they move in and they come back to us and go, well, these items aren't working. What can I do? And that's where the problem is. Right?
Yeah. Yep. And you can understand because, you know, it's all very exciting moving into a brand new place and everything's often shiny and sparkly and whatever, that you think, okay, well, it's all, you know, it all looks good on the surface, but you've actually got to physically do that, go from room to room and from inside and outside and every possible angle to check everything before you make that final signature and that final payment.
It's very, very important. And what I want to say is that typically most buyers get a building and pest inspection. Okay. And that's all quite normal. And then what they do is that they assume that the building inspector that comes in checks all those items, but they don't. Right.
So no electrician has to come through a home and check everything before it's put on the market.
Well, I mean, that's how you should be selling a home, where everything works. Okay, but sometimes that actually doesn't happen, right? For whatever reason. So you need to have it checked. So I always say to buyers, you go and do the inspection with the building and pest guy, right? If you didn't check these items initially before you signed a contract, then when the building and pest inspector goes in, go with them. Okay, because they've got to do their role and their scope of works, but that doesn't necessarily include checking all your electrical items unless you actually specifically ask them to do it, and maybe they charge an extra fee. So you've got to be careful there. So if you're in the locality of the property, you're not buying interstate, then you should go along as well. There's no reason why you can't. You go around, you go test all these items. Something's not working. That's when you raise it, because at that point in time, your contract is still conditional. So if there's an issue with any of the items, you want to raise it then. If you haven't before, if you haven't tested it before you sign that contract, you want to raise it then. Because once you go unconditional, if you find something afterwards, it's pretty much too late. Definitely after you settle and you find out later something's not working, it's definitely too late. I've had buyers ring me afterwards, what's my recourse? Well,
Nothing.
next to nothing.
Yeah.
Next to nothing. Yeah.
So you talk about doing this at the time of the pest inspection. So how far before the contract's all done? How far out are we talking? Are we talking a week? Are we talking a couple of weeks? How far would you recommend?
So typically your pest and building inspection is done within the first 7 or 14 days. And that's what typically is agreed to. So when you know, because your inspector will tell you, or you've booked it with them, you're going on this date and time. So you will meet them there at the property. You should, if you're in the locality, and you go with them in the house. And that gives you the opportunity as well to talk to them about anything that they might find, structural wise or otherwise, evidence of live termites, for example. So while you're there, you go and test all these things yourself. Yeah. And there's no reason why you can't at all. And you should be doing it. If you're interstate and you're buying because you've seen it online,
how does that work? Yeah.
Well, you've got two choices, really. You can specifically ask your building and pest guy to actually test them, right? Or you get the agent to do it and you do it on a FaceTime call. So you can actually see that they're all working and the agent has to run the exercise. Yeah, so he's actually got to go through and run that exercise with you, and then you can tick up all these items. But it's super important because, as I said, it's often missed. And the other thing is when people buy property, we've had recently clients who have bought a property that's been Airbnb'd. Now, they've made the assumption beforehand, without talking to us, that, oh, well, it's Airbnb, the items must have worked, because how could someone Airbnb a property if the stovetop doesn't work, or if the microwave doesn't work, or if the dishwasher doesn't work? Well, surprisingly, people do sometimes. So you can't actually make that assumption.
Yeah, and I think so many people do assume, like you said, Wayne, the excitement, and especially if it's a new-ish home, it looks lovely. But people could have kids the period before and have broken the dishwasher a few weeks out of it hitting the market, and you just wouldn't know. So even it comes down to like even the dishwasher, you'd actually put that on a cycle and make sure it's all running. Why
not? You can put it just on a rinse cycle. Don't have to even put anything in it.
I've never done. Have you?
No, I've
even
never done that.
Going into rentals or whatever, I've never checked anything electrical. But it's great advice because for myself, exact same things happen. I've moved in and go, oh my gosh, none of the fans work, and it's summer and it's 30 degrees.
Exactly. And when you think about the current times that we're in, so just look at what's happening in the market at the moment. We've had several interest rate rises. We're going to have another 2, I believe, between now and mid-year. And the market and the values of properties are shifting downwards. So people have to be really careful about how they spend their money, and they've got to have value for money, and we understand that. So you shouldn't ever be afraid or shy or scared to go and test these items and ask the questions. You're spending a lot of money buying a property. You're there to buy a property where everything works. And I'm not indicating or alluding to a vendor misleading people. It may be that an item has just stopped working and they weren't even aware of it, right? So I'm not saying anyone's doing this on purpose. It could just be, something just stops working, which electrical items, they sometimes do. So go and test those items when you inspect a property, preferably at the beginning before you sign a contract. But if not, make sure you do it before your contract goes unconditional. Yeah.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Despina. And coming up next, a juicy body corporate tale. This one about a real-life townhouse complex in Hendra, Queensland. Stay tuned. That's coming up on Talking Law on Radio 97.